Halal.
Get this party started.
Halal, yeah.
Are we recording?
Sorry.
Okay, we need a light or something. We are on the air.
You better get these two under control.
No, it's better if they're not. I think it makes for better broadcasting
The
or whatever we're doing.
Embrace the chaos.
Welcome to the Chaos and Church Bites. It's a conversation that values faith communities, that doesn't shy away from the ways in which they bite, and wrestles with takes on faith while dipping into local cuisine in a way that is faithfully for the fort. My name is Glenn. We also have
Tyler.
And Christy.
Yes, how about that? Very formal introduction for our whatever it is episode, third or fourth episode.
Hey guys, Luke here. Before we get too far into the episode, I just wanted to take a minute to say thanks for joining us. We've had a lot of fun recording these episodes, but the reason we're doing this is so that we can engage in conversation with you as well. So we encourage you to do all of the usual things like subscribe, share this with a friend. You can comment below, and we'll try to engage with the comments there on a regular basis, or shoot us an email at churchbites@stjoemin.com. That's churchbites@stjoemin.com, and keep an eye out for live events here in Fort Wayne. Our goal is just to create a space, whether that's here online or in person, where we can have these conversations and dig deeper and just talk about the things that are important to us about church, but also the reasons why we may struggle to engage, or just have a safe place to engage in a community that loves Jesus and is still sorting out the rest of it. So join us in any of those formats, and we thank you for being here.
And our first segment, again, we dive into a church bite, a bite we eat here in this room, the podcast fortress in the church.
I like
here.
that name. That might
the podcast bunker.
Yeah, it's more of a bunker.
It's more of a bunker with very tasteful curtains and grand millennial art.
Ooh.
Are we going to dip today?
Yeah, so you can do whatever you want. Like, I don't do the pita, so I got forks, because then I can just, dip out a bite or something. So what we have today, yes, this is one of the great things about being in Fort Wayne, is that we've got halal eats, and we have, friends and neighbors and whatever that have a different faith tradition in some cases not, but have definitely different cultural traditions. And it is Ramadan, but because we're not Muslim, we can eat even though the sun isn't quite down yet.
We'll eat it whenever.
So here we go. One thing that's crazy, I just didn't expect this. Like when we moved to Fort Wayne,
like lunch specials during Ramadan.
So what's crazy though is my kids,
yeah.
like, they know when it's Ramadan. Like a couple weeks ago, they were like, "Well, it is Ramadan." I don't remember what the context was, and I was like, "Okay," but they have friends. They go to school, and
those kids go and do something else during lunch.
Yeah,
or whatever,
or like by high school, they're just sitting there in the cafeteria and not eating lunch. And sometimes cheating on their.
Well, I mean, that's pretty common.
I just get a nibble of your PB&J.
Suck though is having Ramadan over daylight savings time, where all of a sudden the light is an hour later and you can't eat for another hour.
Something I never even considered, but it's a great. Anyway, it was a real. It was a cool thing when all of a sudden we realized, our kids have all these other people they're coming into contact with, other experiences. And I've always valued that, because I don't say always, but when I was a kid, farm boy, and I thought, like, my experience was like the whole world, or at least the best in the world,
Yeah.
And then actually, like, I got a little older and I had other experiences and other cultures, and I was like, wait a second. To have those encounters actually made God seem bigger to me, not smaller. It didn't at least for me, it didn't challenge like, oh no, what if like some things, like if one part of it isn't everything, then is all of it? No, for me, every one of those things made God seem more real and more interesting. And anyway, so halal eats, here we go. We have Baba Ganoush, and we have Falafel.
Love falafel.
Yeah, I got the Baba Ganoush because it's fun to say.
So fun to say.
Yeah.
Can we title this episode Baba Ganoush?
Baba Ganoush.
Oh, and some pickled.
Wow.
Is that turnips? Pickled turnips?
Yeah, I don't know.
Nice.
So,
Are these like Middle Eastern hush puppies?
Yeah, basically, it's basically what I mean. It's chickpea and fava bean, probably
with parsley.
But Tyler, what I really want to know, go ahead and take a bite, and I just want to know, how do you experience the texture of that ball in your mouth? Is that something that? Yeah, I like them. Now I will warn you, these give me a little bit of heartburn. But
okay. I'll try not to chew right in the mic. That is good.
Yeah.
Kind of needs the pickle though.
Do you eat it with
It's
it?
green because of the parsley.
Do you eat it with it?
Okay.
Is it like sushi? Just kind of whatever floats your boat.
I mean, there's probably a right and a wrong way.
Like a lot of times it's in wraps or
You can
on top
use
of a bed of rice.
you can use the pita, and wrap around and put some of the yeah.
But
I like the falafel. I've had it
falafel is
before.
one of my favorite things ever, actually.
The person.
Do they do chicken and falafel? Like chicken and waffles.
Here's a blast from the past. The person who actually introduced me to Halal Eats here in Fort Wayne, Steve Kane. You'll know. Yeah.
Oh,
so yeah.
Did you try to talk to anyone in a foreign language?
in Portuguese. Yeah. It was really no.
Can you see the color?
No, he didn't. he didn't.
The color is so pretty. This one? This one. That's as far as I can reach.
This camera's this way.
I'm wishing I had water. Luke, is that water? Is that available, or is that spoken for?
It's a pretty dry ball.
A bottle I refilled, so I have drank out of it before, but you're welcome to.
I think I'll pass on that.
Okay. I just wanted to be honest with you.
We'll take a break after the bites section. I'm just, yeah.
It's so good. Well, there's actually a couple more Mediterranean restaurants coming, which I'm so excited about. Because that was one of my favorite things about Raleigh, is that Mediterranean restaurants were like Mexican restaurants in terms of quantity. And all of them are just a little bit different. Like your Lebanese versus like your Syrian cuisine versus your more Mediterranean.
I think we should start this way on the rating. Gotta rate it.
Oh, I love Halal Eats. I'd say 9 out of 10.
Wow.
Have you been before?
Oh, yes. And
Where is it? I don't even know where it is.
Just as an FYI, my husband has a lot of allergies. And the owner, his son, also has a lot of allergies. So they're very...
Ayman is his name.
Oh, Ayman.
Yes.
I'm not familiar. I hadn't gotten his name, but they're very good with being allergy friendly.
Nice.
If you let them know.
Have you been? So you've not been before?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, you drive right past
do
it
their grape leaves
every
hot,
day,
though.
multiple times on your way to work, on your way here, multiple times. It's right next to Breakfast Club.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it's back in the plaza more.
Yeah.
It's the only place besides Subway that
Subway.
isn't a bar in that set of.
It's true. It's true. But they do.
Isn't there a hookah bar over there too?
Oh, there is. Yes.
Yeah.
But again, bar.
Same place or no?
No, different places.
Different owner?
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
Maybe.
One might have
Probably
stayed.
Daytime,
some same
nighttime? I don't know.
clientele. But they do their
Is that a
grape
thing?
leaves hot. I think it's
They do what hot?
their grape leaves. I prefer cold grape leaves. They have hot grape
You
leaves.
eat 'em?
Seth likes it better.
Just
Yeah.
straight?
Yeah, just straight off the vine, actually. No,
Nice.
you stuff them. So they stuff them with like rice, and then it's wrapped, and it's got kind of a vinegary sauce. It's really good.
Okay.
I just prefer mine cold in some places. Serve 'em
Okay.
hot. Okay, your turn to rate.
I don't do a ton of Middle Eastern, but definitely hit the spot. I'm gonna go 7.2.
Very specific.
It's not really my thing, but it is good. And
Did you have
I'm
some
sure
like
if you're into it, you will love it. But
If I had been thinking, but I wasn't, I was just in a hurry and I thought, these are appetizers, they'll be quick. I would have got you the kebabs or something.
Oh, that
got you
would've
some
been good.
protein. That might have.
yeah. What's that one? The hummus?
Baba
No,
ganoush.
that's
ganoush.
Baba ganoush.
Yeah, did you try it?
Yeah, I tried it. Is it hummus? Is it not hummus?
No, baba ganoush is
eggplant.
different.
Oh, it's eggplant.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try that one.
Yeah, it's very good.
When you put it on the falafel, that actually
Yeah, their pita. It's interesting the way they do their pita too, because it's that flatter thin, versus like a puffed one. So it is fun to see like the differences in areas that people come from.
how they do it.
Right, like just everyone has pita, but everyone does it just a little bit differently, and it's great.
So I like it. I'm gonna say it's an 8 or a 9 for me. But I can already feel, at least just from whatever my genetic
Little
inheritance is, I
heartburn
can
there.
already feel the like heartburn responding to falafel, but
Do you think it's the chickpea or the fried part?
it might be the fried part. I don't eat much fried stuff, so it might
That
be
could
that
do
too.
it.
Yeah.
Ask for a side of Tums.
So they have a lot of other things, kebabs, lamb, all kinds of other delicious things. It smells great.
Sure.
And Iman, who's the manager, I don't know if he owns the place, but at least manages. Very friendly guy. Very friendly guy. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit of Fort Wayne. There it is.
Love it.
And right next to, right in
Right
your
there.
world, right
I love
nestled
it.
in on the corner opposite from where the St. Joe congregation got its start. There is Halal Eats.
Halal Eats.
There's
Right next
Taco
to,
Bell. That's
our
my Taco
beautiful,
Bell right
diverse
there.
world.
Well, that's what's crazy about it is I think you've been to the Taco Bell, and yet
Yeah.
you've never noticed
100 times.
That's where I ate tonight.
There you go.
I haven't tried the hotheads, the burrito.
Oh,
Is that pretty good?
yes.
Might be on the menu.
Yeah.
Hope to try it
And it's
sometime.
also very good if you have allergies because it's like that
okay.
thick and you can get a barbecue burrito. Yeah, okay, but that's
I've heard good things. So
I like
maybe
it.
that's the next church.
but
Bites
it's not
segment.
really a local place, it's a
Yeah, that's true.
chain.
It's a franchise, but
Yeah, but it's
Yeah, but so
on
is
our
Loving
it's
Cafe,
on
right?
the road here.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
It's
okay, great.
convenient. It's
I'll
between
bring that then. I'll bring
it's
it
between
next
all
time.
three of our homes and this location,
True.
and so
It's fair game.
It's pretty prime target at this
Yeah.
point.
I have
thinking chicken and
coupons.
waffles on the list too pretty soon here.
yeah.
No, Chicken and Waffles closed.
Yeah,
It's
what's the
closed.
name?
It's gonna be
Mr.
a
Sandwich.
sandwich
Mr.
thing.
Sandwich.
Is what's coming in its place.
That's what's
Yeah.
coming. They painted it white.
So when does that open?
I don't know.
I haven't
Still,
seen a
like,
sign
taped
We
Yeah.
are
up.
going to have a
I know.
Mr. Sandwich once that opens.
Okay,
Anyway,
we're
have
ready,
to.
Mr. Sandwich.
there's the
Shout
Church
out.
Bites segment for
Okay.
Halal Eats. It's great,
We
and
love Halal Eats.
tell Iman that we said hi.
Cut.
Can you do that after each segment?
Yeah.
Please.
Cut.
It'll help Austin later.
It's
pretty forced.
I gotta say, this actually, I know it's not your thing in the biggest way, but
Oh, it's so good.
I'm wanting to go back to it.
so
Yeah,
freaking good.
it's good.
I bet it's paprika.
Paprika.
Oh, that's hard to clean up.
Oh, you're off the floor.
No!
He's going to.
Please don't!
Your reaction? She was so pumped. It was like she was gonna rip it out of my hand.
I mean,
It's carpet and it's
and this carpet has not been cleaned since 1992, probably. It
thought
hasn't
it
had a
was really
vacuum.
terrible.
A vacuum hasn't ran in here for 10 years.
Sorry.
I'm
He's like, I'm just gonna put that in you.
Well, for the Lukewarm Takes segment, that's where we, get a news item, and then we get to make our, not hot take, but our lukewarm take on it. We have Luke that's going to present that, and we got Austin, who's our producer, director, stage manager, decorator, technical expert. I mean, you've given a lot of advice on the decorator
pretty much
thing.
it.
You made a
Pretty much
response,
everything.
Austin, when I said that, but you've,
It's
like,
there.
anything... Austin is responsible for the fiduciary trust of this podcast in every way. So,
We're breaking out the $10 word.
yeah,
Baba
he's-
Ganoush.
I'm just trying to,
Fiduciary.
yeah, it's
Baba
a fun one.
Fadoosh.
It's a fun one.
Yeah.
That's a different thing.
Okay.
Anyway, back to
Parks and Rec?
lukewarm takes. Luke, you got a news item for us for a not hot but a lukewarm take.
I do, and we're going super serious today because
Oh.
we're going to Forbes. This is out of Forbes magazine,
That is a serious publication.
and some of you may have more of a thought on this than others. But the headline says Cheetozard, a Pokemon-shaped Cheeto, sells for $88,000. So you have a picture of it on your little paper, so you can see what it is that we're talking about.
Charizard box.
But it's a flaming hot Cheeto shaped like a Charizard.
Oh.
I don't know what a Charizard
That is
is.
It's a Pokemon.
It's a
It is the
Pokemon.
legendary.
I don't know what a Pokemon
It's
is.
the worst
Are you
starter,
serious
for being
right now? All right,
honest.
stop.
It's fine.
Stop the production. How do you not know what a Pokemon
I mean, I have a
is?
vague understanding of a Pokemon is a cartoon character.
Oh boy.
Austin, we're gonna leave this one on you.
This is so in the 90s it was a trading card game.
Okay, remember
that
the cards,
became
yes.
famous from Japan. Pokemon short for Pocket Monster and then
I did not know that.
Yeah. And so trading
Went
card
into a
games.
I know the meaning of the term
toys,
fiduciary
show.
trust.
Yeah. Love a Ganoush.
Okay, I remember the cards.
All right. Yeah, the cards.
Yeah.
I remember.
That was
big.
I remember. So my uncle flies commercial 747s and stuff
Okay.
all around the world.
Yeah.
Like he's Hong Kong one night, he's in Riyadh the next day. Like I don't know, whatever. And a little old lady at our church, when he came back home and visited, she was like, "Make sure there's no Pokemon cards on your planes because those are of the devil."
Nice.
And he was. And
Can
he
we
was
talk about
like,
that our next
sure.
episode?
He was like, "Sure." But of
We
course,
should
he
get some
doesn't get to
Panic
check what's
on
on
there.
the plane.
I'm the
And
pilot.
if he could, it's a 747 or a 767.
It's gonna
Like
take a minute.
it's gonna take a while. Yeah, yeah.
That's
So-
funny.
Oh yeah, so there's cards.
Like, there's
there's the
cards.
show. There were
There's a
movies.
show.
There's a-
there
is
are
there a
video
film?
games.
There's a Pokemon
Video
There's
film.
several
Lots
films.
of
Okay.
Yep.
There. Have you ever heard the?
Is it a talkie?
The
the film?
quote. It is a talkie.
Ryan Reynolds, voice of Detective Pikachu.
Detective Pikachu was great, but
It's a good one.
Mewtwo's big line was, "I know now that it is not the circumstances of one's birth that matters, but what you decide to do with it." No, anyway, it's good.
Never heard of him, but it sounds intriguing.
It is intriguing. That was a good. That was a good movie. And then it got a big resurgence. What, like 6-7 years ago?
Yeah,
Now, how is this different? I've
and
heard Austin
especially like right in
mention-
COVID time because I think people
That's true.
started like recollecting
True.
again.
And someone's gonna check me. I didn't do that.
So
quote
how is this
exactly
connected
right,
to the
so-
PokeGo phenomenon?
Oh yeah, so that got a big resurgence because that's when you're walking around. It's an app,
Yeah, and you
and
look
you're
with
trying
the
to catch them on your app.
Yep.
And it helps people get out and get around. Yeah, we do that a lot in the winter when we got nothing else to do.
Okay, yeah. I've never done it, but the
yeah.
last church I was at, it was like a PokeGo
You're
location.
like 3 here. This church is
Oh,
like
really?
3. Yes.
I
We
had
got
no
a
idea.
gym and 2 Pokestops. I know.
A Poke what?
Pokestops. So
It's like
anyway,
where you collect supplies and stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
And-
yeah. And
I'm glad that we're when we
It's
talk
a
about
whole world.
when we talk about
It's a
being
world.
for the
it's a
fort, we never mention that, and it
whole-
kills me.
We don't, and we should.
We got to be
You
for
are
those
right.
people.
Yeah,
Totally a missed marketing opportunity
Yeah,
here.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
True.
we
it's
are
true.
a Pokestop.
But
You say
it's-
Pokestop?
Pokestop
Yeah,
and
okay.
a gym. But it's
And
one
gym.
of the biggest, most
where you
successful
battle.
franchises in the world. Like, it's up there with Disney as far as success.
Okay.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane.
Now, see, I thought that was like a niche term to the Pokeverse
I just, you
that
know
you were
what?
using.
Insane.
It is now.
Sandshrew, he's insane.
Sandshrew is insane. But the video games
I don't know what
are,
they're talking about.
The video games are really big too. So I was not into Pokemon as a kid.
88,000 though. That's
I'm a
So,
new
88,000
Pokemon
for a Cheeto shaped like a character I've never heard of.
And
So-
what's our lukewarm take on this?
So
That's
a couple of things here.
ridiculous,
So you've got
even
this,
as much
and I
as
guess
I love
one
them.
would be, I'm amazed that somebody kept it, but then it got auctioned off by Golden Auctions, which is a reputable like collectible auction site. But
Is
it was
it-
one of those they thought it might sell for a little bit because it was kind of cool,
Yeah.
but
like a novelty type, but then it
I've
like
never
internet
seen a
took
Cheeto
off.
that looked like that.
and
I'll
the
say
internet,
that.
the
That's
internet
true.
went crazy, and a bidding war ensued, and it went up to 88,000. So
It also could be Bowser though, with a tail.
yeah.
From this angle, it does look like Alan Greenspan.
Wonder what that would sell for.
I
Yeah.
just think of all the Charizards that went unnoticed to the untrained eye who were eaten. Could you imagine eating an $80,000 Cheeto and not knowing it? You know what I mean? Like
I
didn't-
mean, you
like
wouldn't
you pick it
know.
up, and be like, oh, that does look like Alan Greenspan, and then you eat it. You know what I mean? Not knowing.
Not
did
knowing.
you eat an
I have-
$80,000 one though, or did you eat like a 25-cent one? And
I have
is
never.
this worth $88,000 or 25
Is
cents?
it?
I think
Yeah.
I know where this is going. Luke, do you have follow-up questions for us about this?
Possibly, but we'll see where this goes. One, I just want the initial take to.
So
how
my-
is this worth 88,000, and what does that?
Well,
tell
it's
us?
worth 88,000 because
people say it is.
care about. I feel like our theme for the night, whether it's Halal Eats or now this, is like there are. Who said this? I don't know. There are worlds within worlds, right?
Probably Mewtwo.
What? From U2?
No.
Mewtwo, the Pokemon.
Mewtwo? I have no idea what you're talking about.
So now we're gonna try and slip in as many Pokemon
As many Pokemon,
references
then I'll be like,
as
what?
possible.
Yeah.
Okay, so there
Yeah.
are worlds within worlds, and you are right.
Yeah, and I
Yep.
think this is Halal's an example where you can drive by it every day. You
Never
never
know.
see it.
Never
You never
see it.
experience it. And for the most part, don't even see and experience all the folks that do value that
right.
and find that place. And then this is the same kind of thing. Like if I were eating I don't eat Cheetos. I'm not a part of that world. I'm not in the Poke world either. Is that what you call it? The Pokeverse? I don't know.
I like that.
I have never heard it called the Pokeverse, but I'm in.
Yeah. Okay. So it has value because you're in, but like, that's not a world I'm part of. But I could see why, if you are.
But 88,000. I mean, I'm
it's also
in
just
that
capturing
world, and
on
that's
like
just
the mania, right? It's the bubble, right? It's
right now. You
this
can't
giant
buy
bubble.
Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
They're out everywhere.
Yeah. It's somebody trying to make a buck on the bubble that is Pokemon. It's going to burst.
But good for them.
I'm
for
sure it's
getting
going to
in.
look really good on the shelf next to all their Beanie Babies.
Oh, that's so funny. I was going to make a Beanie Baby reference because I feel like that is a part of that is sort of the bubble.
Same.
Yeah.
So the real interesting thing is it's not even the most expensive Cheeto ever sold.
Oh no!
In 2017, a Harambe-shaped Cheeto sold for $99,000.
Oh,
It's
what?
just a gorilla-shaped Cheeto.
I'm not aware of what a Harambe is.
Harambe's a gorilla, the one that got killed because the kid got in and...
Oh, okay. Okay. I
Where
think I
the
have a big
timeline
memory.
That went down in
shifted,
value.
you know?
You know what I mean?
I'm
That
guessing
went
now
Once
probably
he killed
probably
the kid, yeah, it's not worth as much.
No, he didn't kill the kid.
Oh.
He got killed.
He got, but the kid got injured or what?
Well, I mean, he fell into the gorilla
Good for
enclosure.
him.
And then
I mean, both of them.
And then they had to kill
they
the
let him
gorilla.
eat the
Gorilla
Cheeto?
saved the
Oh,
kid.
because to keep the gorilla away from the kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
And some people, your YouTube conspiracy folks, would say that's when the timeline shifted.
What? That of all things?
That's what I've heard.
Not 9/11
No,
or any of
Harambe.
it? Harambe is the great shift in the
Timeline
multiverse?
shift.
Come on. All right.
Anyway, but Harambe's just a gorilla.
Wait,
How
why'd
do
you
they
put
know?
my direction?
I don't know. I don't have a picture of that one.
Shaped.
He's
You like the conspiracy.
There was
theory.
also
You don't know me.
an Among
I
Us.
get it.
hey, he's just asking questions. That's all.
That's right.
his
Honest
own
questions.
research.
Just do your own research. He's just asking
Is
questions.
the Earth round? I don't know. I'm just asking questions.
Just asking.
Sorry,
People
go
are
ahead.
wondering.
I don't know
People
how I
have
went
said.
Cheeto to
So
round Earth.
the other thing I would say about this is like this is the kind of stuff.
much it went
Not what was this called? A Cheetozard shaped Cheeto, but this is adjacent to the kind of stuff I run into every day in ministry because. Well, this is, I think, where Luke is going with this, is that humans are creatures that are always looking for patterns. And if you think about the development of the human brain, seeking patterns helps lead you to, food. It helps, like, once you figure out, there's lots
You
of
don't
things.
eat the bad berries.
Yeah, well,
Don't
yeah,
eat the
right.
morels with fuzzy
There's all
in the middle,
kinds
you'll
of things
die.
trying to make sense out of complex things can help you do. You can end up constructing tools and spaceships and a Pokeverse.
This is called pareidolia. That's my big word.
It's what?
Pareidolia.
What's that mean?
Finding shapes in like inanimate objects that aren't meant to be. So like a tree stump
Yeah.
that looks like a dog.
Yeah, and
Pareidolia.
typically the paranoia.
Dolia.
Dolia? Pareidolia. Paranolia's different. The pareidolia is making sense of what, like a psychologist would say, the cultural schema we have that gives us the lens through which we look for patterns.
Sure.
Let's come up with another made-up word that we can. Schema actually is what we dipped the falafel in earlier. Yeah, no, it's a different thing.
This is the best
the
schema
Baba
I've
Ganoush.
ever had.
Yeah, so people all the
actually have to
time
use that word a
use the kind of paradigms that we have, and a lot of times they're the paradigm of Christian
Welcome to
faith,
tech.
where we're looking for a pattern, and we see things. And I think one thing that as a pastor I get involved in occasionally is not wanting to dismiss when somebody's like, "Oh, I saw this sign,"
Oh yeah.
but
I
also
looked up
try
and it
to
was 11:11.
Yeah, right. Or there's all like I've told a story before of like I had a buddy in college who was like he took seeing a rabbit as a sign from God, which if it was like every morning there's like 3 in my yard, so that's a good
Right,
sign. It's got to be.
That's
right?
gotta be.
Most days.
Do you just start
Anyway.
killing them? Huh? It's a sign that I should eat more rabbit.
I should eat more rabbit.
It's my sign.
So he was like, I'm gonna ask, like he was wanting to ask a girl out, and he's like, if I get a sign from God, I am gonna ask her
remember
out
the
tonight. And
story.
he
Did
walks
she have
out.
a white rabbit on her
No,
tattoo?
no, she actually was wearing a rabbit suit that day. No, I'm just kidding. Well, he walks out of the dorm and there was a rabbit, and so he's like, perfect. Well, like.
Go for it, man.
It's Indiana.
I love it.
You're
India. What do you mean?
You're on a college campus with hundreds of acres of grass on it,
Yeah.
and there are going to be rabbits. So, anyway, like that. But that's to me how this fits. Like people have seen Jesus on grilled cheese and whatever else.
The Elvis.
I bet
I'm sure there's an
Jesus
Elvis Cheeto. There's
I'm
there's
gonna
gotta
start
be.
buying just big bags of Cheetos and
just
start
sorting through them.
Christy, you
kinda like
might
the
have too
lottery
much
thing.
time on your hands if that's the
You know what else you have on your hands?
I could just start using
Cheeto dust.
Yeah,
that stuff
nuclear
never comes
dust.
off. If you show
That
up
is
next
true.
week and you've got orange
I would
fingers,
accidentally
we're like,
kill
so, Christy,
my
what you been up to?
my dairy
deep in
allergic
Cheetos.
husband.
Is there dairy in the Cheeto dust?
It's cheese.
No,
Is
it's
it
not.
It's cheese products.
Oh, okay.
That is
It's got
not cheese.
It has dairy in it. Cheetos have.
It's not vegan. Probably.
No, probably not.
I feel like this
They
is
have.
something I need to
Look
turn
it
to
up.
the
We need to
internet
be
for.
fact check
How
right
much
now.
was the Harambe one? I want to know.
Oh, it's just
90.
under
He
100.
said
Yeah,
yeah,
just under
90
100,000. There was
See,
also
It might be worth going through
$100,000
a couple
chicken
cheetah
nugget.
bags. I like to open Pokemon cards.
There you go.
I'm
That would be
looking
the
for
most.
hits.
Those would be the worst unboxing videos ever. Because you'd have to get through like 80,000 bags of Cheetos to find like one
What do you think this
random.
looks like? I'm gonna call this one stick.
It's
So
Forky.
only some
It's
Cheetos.
Phantom.
Only some Cheetos have dairy. Just so you know, the Cheetos Simply White Cheddar Puffs, they have dairy.
Because they're
Most of the puffy ones, those are the dairy
have
ones.
dairy.
Stay away
but
from the
regular
puffies.
Cheetos don't
Just
have
like
dairy.
Puff Diddy.
Yes,
yeah,
stay away from them.
yeah. The Flaming Hots also contain dairy.
No, thank you.
So I can't, consult your local nutritionist, but
Consult your bag of Cheetos.
yeah, or the bag of Cheetos.
This is for entertainment purposes only and not.
Yeah, we're
Disclaimer,
not giving
not
medical.
nutrition
We're not
advice.
giving out medical or nutrition. We're just asking questions.
We're
There you
just-
go.
We're just,
Does Bigfoot exist? I don't know.
maybe.
We're just throwing it out
Could
there.
be.
Maybe. Did the
I have a book
timeline
on
shift
Indiana
when Harambe
cryptids,
was
by the way.
murdered? Perhaps. We don't know.
No,
We don't
maybe
know.
we're just
Just
throwing
asking.
it out there. Cheetozard. Question is,
Again.
how much would you pay for it?
$2, maybe.
I'd drop $20 on it.
Would you?
$20.
If somebody came up to me on the street, I might.
on the street?
Yeah. I mean,
Not
it depends
like-
what they were wearing.
Not like you're at Comic Con and you're
No,
like,
no, no.
oh, a Cheeto shaped like.
licked it, and you don't know.
I mean, I wouldn't eat it.
That's the least they could have done if they're selling it on the street.
I don't know. I just think it is cool. It's a novelty.
Sure, it's novelty.
I mean,
My husband would
what's
probably
$20?
put it on the shelf. What is $20?
Inflation, man.
4 Taco
Inflation.
Bell meals.
What?
That's what $20 is. Thank you.
Doesn't get you much.
You're not going to Taco Bell enough.
I'm not
Was it
interested.
sanctioned by Pokemon? That's really what I'm curious.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't
So it was like totally
If,
like
if
off.
Pokemon sanctioned
Like
it,
if they,
it would, yeah.
if they create a Cheetozard card like based on this, how cool would that be? You know how
Full
like when
art? That'd be a full
like
art
Magic the
card.
Gathering did the what was the Broken Egg series that they did?
Oh no, I'm not
This
into
was
MTG.
back. Never
I'm
mind.
not that
All right, never
rich.
mind. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. But where they like parodied all these
Right,
other like
where it's
cards
like
and
a-
stuff. Like if they came out with a series that they were like,
A Cheetozard card.
That would be
Because they
awesome.
have those that are like crocheted or like
Yeah, yeah, uh-huh, yeah,
where
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like a
yeah, no, I've seen those. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Where it's like a physical thing.
But like a
and then-
whole
but, like, they
series
could
that
do a
was
Cheetos-
like, yeah, that would
Cheetos.
be cool.
they could have
I
a
feel
great
like they need to
partnership.
do more collabs.
They do
Because
need to do
like
more collabs.
Magic does collabs, like they
Yeah.
did a Lord of the Rings, and they've
They're
done
real
some like.
picky with their collabs. Like they don't do Lego. They have like Roblox or whatever.
There's a bug in here. That's a gnat, bro. Baba get get out of here.
I think it came in with the Cheetozard.
Yeah,
Probably
Cheetozard is fine.
Cheetozard.
All right.
Are there any other questions as
Yeah,
we talk
sorry.
about Pokemon more? Because we're
I'm about to
keep
drift
going.
off to sleep.
There you go. So this might be a game just for Glenn. We'll see. I don't know,
Ooh.
Christy and
Is it named that
Ty-
Pokemon? Because that is
It's
one of
not.
my
I
favorite games.
I don't know how to take that for you.
this is
We'll be having fun over here. You just sit there.
So I'm not a Pokemon expert,
'Kay.
but I do know some minor league baseball teams, and so
I
I,
don't.
want to play a quick game of: is this a Pokemon or a minor league baseball team?
I love it. Is Mudhead's on here?
It is not.
Oh man!
So I tried
Shout
to
out
get-
What about
Mudheads.
Lug
So
Nuts?
I didn't do lug nuts
That
either.
does
Yeah,
sound
those
like a
are too easy.
Pokemon.
That does. Lug nuts.
I thought about that one, to be
Is
honest.
just Glenn playing, or are we playing too?
So if it's an obvious Pokemon that you're like, hey, that's definitely a Pokemon,
'Kay.
don't answer right away.
Okay.
If you're not
We're being
sure,
so
then you can
thoughtful.
play.
Yeah,
So-
I won't
I don't
have
know a
any
lot of the
idea.
new Pokemons. I'm an old school, played it in the 90s, so
I
we'll
just
see.
got into in the
Yeah.
last couple of years.
'Kay.
So here's your first one:
Okay.
the Magnemites. Magnemites.
Magnemite.
Is that a Pokemon or is that a?
That's definitely a
baseball
baseball
team.
I
team.
feel like baseball.
It's a Pokemon.
It's a Pokemon.
Ah.
Magnemites are Gen 1 electric type Pokemon.
It's a Gen 1.
I feel like it was.
What are you doing?
I was sure it was going to be the
I was thinking like Magmar. It
Albuquerque
sounded like Magmar to me.
or
No,
something.
it's
Like
the
something
It's the
playing on that.
Albuquerque Isotopes is the baseball team
Well,
from
I
Albuquerque.
wasn't far off there.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
All right, so
That's a good.
the next one is Iron Pigs.
No, this one is definitely a baseball team.
Do you know where they're from?
I'm gonna
It's a
say
baseball team.
like maybe Rockford, Illinois.
No, that's Ice Hogs. That's a hockey team. Rockford's hockey team.
They do have an Ice Hogs
Wow.
hockey team.
Wow.
It is a baseball team.
Wow.
Let me find
I'm gonna
their,
do my best Owen
their
Wilson.
list here.
Wow. Wow.
The Lehigh Valley
right.
Iron Pigs.
Oh, okay,
That's
so
not even
Pennsylvania.
Canada.
Okay, we're just doing terrible
It's in Pennsylvania.
impersonations.
All right.
You know, my guess based on that was actually on a Johnny Cash song, where it's I got pig iron, all pig iron, and he's
That's
on
a
the Rock
specific
Island
kind of
line.
iron,
It's the song is the Rock Island line. The Rock
Okay.
Island line is the road to ride. Rock Island line is a mighty. I'll sing it another time.
Okay.
Better get your ticket at the station at the Rock Island line. But the Rock Island line, yeah. The Rock Island line, it runs through Illinois, and anyway, I got
don't know.
livestock, I got livestock, I got cows, I got mules, I got pigs. This is my world within a
There you
world.
go. But for
Forget
Pokemon
Pokemon,
Johnny Cash.
Here comes Johnny Cash.
That's right.
Yeah,
If Johnny Cash were a Pokemon, no, I'm
I
just
got all livestock.
Bronzor.
I think
All right, we'll do one last one because I feel like this has gone on plenty. So
What is that?
I want to play more.
the last one's Clinks. It's Clinks.
I'm gonna guess Pokemon.
Is it like a jail? Maybe it's a jail team.
I don't know.
I mean, he was the Colonel on Hogan's Heroes, played by Werner Herzog. Colonel Clink on Hogan's Heroes, but I don't.
Pokemon or baseball team?
It's a Pokemon.
I'd say Pokemon if
Pokemon.
Christie's saying that.
Yes.
Yeah, that didn't sound like a baseball team. That'd
Wait,
be
I
like,
wanna-
what's
what
their
do you know?
mascot?
How many more did you have?
I have
It's like a watch.
Like two wine glasses.
Pendleton.
No, Clink is like a watch.
Pendleton Rec baseball team. The Clinks.
Oh yeah, okay, I see. There's a jail
Yeah,
reference.
it's like a watch kind of.
Like two gears.
Two
gears.
gears.
Two
Yeah.
gears.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Luke, what's your favorite? What's your
Pokemon.
favorite baseball team name?
favorite.
Because Luke's claim to fame is he's been to like a whole lot of baseball.
I really like
places.
the Rocket City Trash Pandas.
That's fabulous.
Because
that makes me happy.
it looks like
the raccoons.
yeah, it looks
Yeah.
like Rocket
Oh.
Raccoon.
That is so,
So-
cool.
Like Rocket the Raccoon. Oh,
Yeah,
Where is this Rocket City?
Rocket City.
Where is
yeah.
that?
What state?
Wow.
Is that Alabama?
Yes, near
Like
the,
Huntsville,
near the-
Alabama?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was a joke, but okay, you for being right.
It has. No, I'm being serious.
I know. I don't know why I laughed. I'm sorry, Alabama.
Yeah.
You know,
Of
it's
course,
a really
of
beautiful
course they can do
state. I
Trash
was
Panda.
like-
And people are like, yeah.
yeah. Right.
How do
In
you feel
Alabama.
about Banana like creating their own league and like leaving minor league baseball? I know this is kind of a sidebar
I'm okay with it
conversation.
because it's not baseball anymore.
They've created
it's
their
like the
own
Harlem
thing.
Globetrotters. It's cool for
I
what it
love the
is.
Harlem
Ooh, the
Globetrotters.
fighting words. It's like
I don't think it is.
okay.
The Globetrotters are a big
They're
deal.
amazing.
They've
Yeah,
been
I
around
know, but I
forever.
don't think I think he's still trying to create it as a competitive sport with some aspects of entertainment included. Whereas Harlem Globetrotters, I would say, everybody knows it's staged. It's like professional wrestling. How many people can we offend in one podcast?
We've dabbled in a lot of worlds today.
have.
We-
We have.
So that's all I meant by that. But yeah,
I do think
It's interesting.
So, and this may tie into a conversation later. It's interesting to see like your traditionalists that are like, don't change baseball. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
But he's like, we're going to rewrite some of the rules and we're going to do
Yep.
this different, and it adds some excitement. It adds
Yeah.
something new, and so some people are absolutely going to hate it, and
Yep.
others are going to be like, oh, this is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
it's entertaining. So I'm,
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. But
yeah. I think that
it's
could
not the
definitely
same.
tie into our church conversation
Yeah.
a little bit of
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, that's the end of Lukewarm Takes, and then we'll get ready to dive into our. That's my daughter Lydia. That would be her role. She'd be like, "Cut, cut." Yes.
like now do it with more.
Gusto. Yeah.
You gotta sound like you're.
So tonight we're talking about church politics.
I don't know what to do with my Cheetos.
Here, I'll take them. I'll just throw them over here in a pile. I wish I had
a Cheetos art.
Mainly off camera. So tonight we're talking about church politics.
No one's buying that.
And I'm just going to keep talking because it's the only way we're going to get through it.
Look at this. Hot snake looks like a Cheetos art.
I'm sorry, I jumped in on the.
Sorry.
Look at what this hot snake looks like.
That was stupid. All right, let's transition.
Wait, we gotta wait for Christy to stop making dolphin noises and breathe. We'll give her some time. For the 2 people who are still listening to this or watching us on YouTube, we thank you. We appreciate your dedication. We don't know why you hate yourself and you're still watching, but we thank you for
mom and
Austin's mom. Hello.
Shout out to our biggest fan. We're making t-shirts for
Austin's
you.
mom, my grandmother. We're thankful for you. Okay,
church
so
politics.
church politics.
Let's get serious up in here.
There's more than one way to think about that. There's a way to think about. We're not talking tonight about the first one kind of thing that comes to people's mind, which is Christians engaged in the political world. We're thinking more about what happens tonight internally in the life of congregations, faith communities. And so, as usual, we're going to begin with defining terms. When I think of church politics for the purpose of this discussion, I'm not thinking of the church exerting its influence in that partisan way. Which, by the way, this is my parenthetical note. I tend to not be a fan of, no matter
either way,
whatever kind of expression.
I agree.
This is a little bit of a debate. Again, another.
We're just going to offend everybody tonight.
Sidebar on a sidebar, which is we had a debate on the preaching team about 3 weeks ago, Luke. 4 weeks ago, I don't know, something like that, maybe 5 weeks ago, about a pastor can be critical of leadership, but I would not want to ever be pro a particular platform or organization or even necessarily legislation. I would be there. It would be very rare cases that I would be this is something we all need to do and support and call and get done. I'd be just very careful about being that way about it, but I feel a lot more on solid ground from a scriptural point of view of being in the Bible. There's a lot of examples of
calling out,
calling
saying
to
this
account.
is not okay. This is not okay.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of examples, especially of the prophet showing up and saying, "Let's all cheer for the king," unless they're on the take. And so, anyway, so that's my close that parentheses. Close the parentheses on all of that being pretty crappy. And so we're not talking about that. And we're not even trying to talk about what the church would say about issues, which is kind of a separate thing than that. But rather what we're talking about is that internal stuff, and it exists in 3 ways. The first one we're going to talk about is when the relationships that are within a faith community are manipulated to preserve the institution. And there's kind of a range of examples on this. So the worst that I can think of is if you think of situations where there's abuse and a cover-up of abuse. The cover-up is perpetrated because you kind of don't want to sour people on the church, or you want to protect the liability of the church, or you want to protect a leader in the church.
So we are trying to offend as many people as possible.
Well, I mean, this is a thing,
Yeah,
right?
no, it's a thing, but let's
that
go what
should
it
not
is.
be
We're
offensive.
talking about
It's a
mostly the
huge-
Catholic Church. No?
No, I'm thinking
Okay,
Southern
sorry.
Baptist
All right.
when
I
he's
was
talking
thinking
about
more
this.
from an institutional sort of perspective. There was.
Well, and I'll talk about United Methodist.
Yeah.
How about that?
Okay.
I'll
All right.
lift that one up.
All right.
So I went to a closed church in Indiana, and I saw the dedication plaque for the day the building was built. 1995, and everything else was out of the church but the dedication plaque. And I thought, well, that's sad. That was a really great day, and there's names of people on that, and the name of it. And I looked up and I thought, why this is just here? I looked up the clergy person because I thought I don't know that person, and I feel like I should know this person. And so I Googled the name of the clergy person who founds this church, and it turned out that as a youth pastor, they had, there's no other term for it. They had raised a youth person in their youth group, and then they had moved on, and then that to a different appointment, the appointment where they planted this congregation, that person and their parents filed a lawsuit.
Wow.
And this happened in the mid 90s ish. And so the Indianapolis Star, a representative of the Indiana, at the time, the South Indiana Annual Conference, was interviewed, and they said it's just one person's word against this clergy. They'd never say that today.
Yeah.
But it was an example of the impulse that has existed for a long time. Yeah, the Southern Baptists have had a huge thing about this in the last few years.
We had a big Quaker
The Roman
thing.
Catholics kind of paved the way for it about 20 years ago.
But it's opened up
That's like
pockets
the
of
famous
Yeah.
one. Is-
yeah. And what's
Well,
the
I think
movie
just
about that?
their
Is it-
sheer size, obviously the
true.
numbers are going to
Well,
be...
and their cultural power, like the movie that's about that, where the Boston Globe and the New York Times are
yeah,
breaking
and the
story.
journalist, breaks
The
story,
cultural power of the Roman Catholic Church in a city like Boston is really hard to overstate, especially at the moment that was all happening. Yeah, so it's everywhere. It's ubiquitous.
Yeah.
This kind of impulse. And I even know a congregation that's even closer here in Fort Wayne, where I know a person who was on staff parish committee when an accusation was made. And the first impulse that they had on that committee, staff parish committee is like the team that's assigned to helping kind of care for and support, but also keep accountable the clergy and the staff for anybody who, I don't want to
the
use...
human resources.
It's HR for the
within
church.
yeah.
And so when this accusation came up, the first impulse was, let's rally around our pastor, let's support them, let's help guide them through this. And there came a point that the person would say, like, they started all of a sudden in their view of it to start to shift and be like, oh man, we are doing the wrong thing. Like, the right thing at this point is to try to listen to the victim and sort this out instead of... But it took time for even people who are really faithfully trying to sort through it and do the right to be like, whoa, wait a second. So it's... and
Do you feel like that comes from a place of like, we don't want it to be true?
oh yeah,
Absolutely.
And so it's a sort of the snap of like, what? No, not our pastor or not our leader or whatever.
Yeah, I think we don't want it to be true. I think that there's a lot, and this is less true, but there's a lot of goodwill that we want to extend. There's relational connections that, like in a lot of cases, a clergy person is the person who shows up at the hospital. They're the person who does the funeral. They're the person who's, does the wedding and whatever. And they're a part of your life. And so, it's really, it's not just preservation of the institution. There's the human instinct.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But nonetheless, the institutions have been pretty bad about coming to grips with how to navigate that. And, it's felt too, though, like there have been seasons. Has it gone the other way at times where the institutions became so responsive, or is this is more of a topic for conversation? I want some takes on this. But it does feel like there have been moments that that the institutions became so responsive to a concern or accusation that someone who hadn't really done anything inappropriate or wrong ends up really in a bad situation.
Yeah.
And of course,
well, there's a very recent story that came out with that as far as the Duke lacrosse team.
Yeah.
And this isn't the church, but it was a very public at the time. I think it was like 2012.
Yeah.
There were 5 or 6 players that were accused and convicted, and they all, served time. And the person later came out recently
and said I made it
that
up.
it was that it was
Which
false.
It's crazy how prophetic Luke's Cheeto thing was, because what made that such a perfect storm was it fit with everything you expected,
right.
or like that we would culturally expect. Like rich white kids,
upper class, lacrosse,
and then
Duke,
you've got
the whole thing.
a poor working class woman of color who comes, and it's like it just makes sense. Like, of course they're going to take advantage of this. Of course they're going to, know. And it turned out that while there are still a lot of underlying pieces that we should all be paying attention to and concerned about, she later on said it didn't happen. So.
Yeah, that's tough.
Christy, we're the dudes talking about this. I think a female perspective is important.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. What do you? And I feel you have thoughts. So what are your thoughts?
I do have thoughts. So I think it's important to note that it's somewhere around like 2% of people that are ever convicted is shown that it was a false claim.
Yeah.
But when it does, it's devastating. And so, the thing is, and on the other hand, I actually had it happen to a friend of mine that is a high school teacher who was accused of doing inappropriate things with a student. And the high school responded appropriately in my mind, put him on administrative leave. The community, of course, was very enraged, as I totally understand. And it was funny because my response was like, no, not him. No, I believe him when he says he didn't do it. And she did eventually. The student came out and said, I was lying, as they were thoroughly investigating. And I think the evidence was pointing that she was not telling the truth. And I know it was horrific for him to kind of have that. It's a small community,
right?
Kind of make him a pariah.
Public thing, right? Once it's out, it becomes
But as a woman who has been in vulnerable situations with male authority figures, like, I'm still glad they took it as seriously as they did. I'm still glad they did a thorough investigation, and because the percentage of assault that is never reported, and if it is reported that people actually serve any time for or get any kind of repercussions, is tiny. And so, like, that is something that is really terrifying to be a woman. And so, and like, thankfully, like, I have never had, especially as an adult, a male authority figure but like, you're always aware, no matter how comfortable you are with the person. And I know, like, as a man in authority, like, oh, there's that big bug. It was not a gnat. That's a moth.
It's a shield bug. It's a shield bug.
Shield bug.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
Don't squish it, or
no,
it's
smell. Okay. I will leave him over here for now.
Great.
Yeah.
We can take him outside.
In true farm boy fashion, just
That's right. They don't hurt you.
If it was in my home, I wouldn't kill it. I would just take it and let it out.
Take it outside.
Yeah.
say a prayer for it.
I don't need to pray for it to
Make
send
him
it
a
on its
meal.
way. I just, just say, hey, you got to pass this time, buddy. There you go.
Tell your
Back to what
friends
you
not
were
to come around
saying.
here.
Back to what you were saying. So I want to clarify what I was saying. Like, I'm not necessarily talking about situations where so there's a couple things that you raise. One is that there are situations where like not all allegations are the same.
Sure.
And whenever there's a power differential involved, that introduces another dynamic, right? And so that's where you have to really say, was this as consensual as everybody thinks it was, if there's a power dynamic involved? So, I think in the midst of all of that, I agree with what you're saying. I think it's probably better to err on the side of, we're going to give a process, we're going to give time, and we're going to discern what happened. There is a difference between assault and situations where it's like, there was a questionable comment made, and maybe you need to, like, be informed and educated about being more mindful of, the things you say or the things you do. Like, that's a vastly different world, but there still needs to be some sort of response to it, right?
Yeah, but then and I know this is not necessarily like the topic of our talk tonight, but to take it a step further, as far as being a woman, it's really interesting, because then it's also hard, and like, being in leadership and being in meetings, like, one-on-one is important to have me. Like, then you get kind of, and I'm actually not saying this to throw him under the bus, like the Mike Pence rule, where it's like, I will not meet with a woman.
The Billy
one-on-one.
Graham rule.
Well, yes, I know that. Yeah, I figured
originally.
people that are not within the church might be more familiar with Mike Pence. But yes, it's the Billy Graham rule. And that is exclusionary, like, in and of itself. And so it's this interesting balance of, like, I understand why men in authority would want to protect themselves from allegations or just from any appearance of doing wrong. And also, like, where's the balance of, like, oh, maybe it's just seeing a woman as a person and not a thing.
Yeah, well, and even that. So I want to, I appreciate how nuanced you are in that take, because I agree with you. I don't think if you're trying to practice ministry, like in the context that I am, that I can say I will not have a conversation with a woman if there's not someone else present. Like, that doesn't work.
Yeah, right.
So I appreciate that, and I agree with that, and I appreciate how kind of generous you were in your assessment around that. And I just want to affirm that, like, how do women get mentored? How do there is risk in that, because it's relational. Exactly. And so as soon as you open the door to that relational existence, then it's still like, well, yeah, even if you're both like, yeah, we're both people, I view this person as a person, I respect them, there's inherent risk to that still, right?
Sure.
So, but I think the thing tonight, so I appreciate your nuance around that, and I think I think like the impulse in that rule is self and institutional preservation, still at the expense of somebody else, right? So it's kind of another aspect of how hard it is to be in relationship, to not prioritize the institution, but to prioritize relationships which are inherently risky. They just are.
Right.
Like, we have this conversation in our house all the time. Someone's daughter has a mole or a wart or something on her foot. And my daughter was like, "Can you catch that?" And I was like, and she's, because like she put on my shoe. And I was like, you know,
yes, and we need to amputate.
I said, we talk about this all the time.
All right,
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, you can't do that with this kid.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but the conversation that we have all the time is like, you know, like they were sick, and you know, like, are we gonna get sick? And it's like, look, you guys live cheek to jowl all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
There is inherent risk in relationship, right? Like if they get sick, you are gonna get. We've had this happen, right? You are gonna get sick. Yeah. So how do we prioritize that? Accept the risk on some level, acknowledging that humans are humans and that we're gonna pass diseases and we're gonna whatever, you know, and yet prioritize the relationship, not the institution. Because how these things get mishandled, don't you think that has been what has turned so many people off, whether it's clergy or other people in the church? I'm serving my 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is my 5th congregation, including the one I was on staff at in college. And in every congregation I've served, there have been stories of abuse that happened within the life of that congregation at some point. And I think part of it is, unfortunate. I don't think that the church is a place that happens necessarily more. I hope not. But it's a place where people are gathered. And in many of those cases, it wasn't handled well, and it turned people off to the faith community totally. And sometimes even just that it happens is going to turn people off, right? Yeah. But how we end up processing it, handling it, and whatever can have as big an impact as anything. Have you experienced that anywhere, any situations like that in that first case of how we, kind of the more extreme example of how we put institutional preservation before relational situations?
I've been really fortunate in that I don't know that I have been a part of it, like, or very privy to it.
I knew a pastor who, at least at a season in ministry, he had a parent who was in ministry, and there was an accusation of some kind. And so when he would visit women in the hospital, he would stand at the door of the hospital room. He would not enter. He would not enter.
Like a plague doctor?
Yeah. He would not enter the hospital room.
Wow.
And like people at the church people can be very understanding, and so they kind of were like, okay, we understand you've been through something, and they just kind of let it be. But again, it's like how can you be that
even work?
Right.
Yeah, how can you be the pastor if you can't kind of accept the inherent risk of the relational proximity?
Body cam?
If that was a thing in that day,
maybe. I don't know. Is that a thing?
Going into a hospital room?
I don't know. I gotta
just so you know,
before I pray for you.
I think that would cause a separate set of problems. I have seen so many things in hospital rooms, you know, just it's
I don't know that I want video of me in a hospital room.
And I don't think people want their clergy wearing a camera in the hospital room. It's not a great moment for most people.
It fixes anything. I'm just
right. You're thinking of options.
That's
You're thinking outside the box.
So if we move away from that less extreme example, and just wanting to say, you know, if that's happened to you in your life, I'm sorry. I hope that you connect with folks that can help you process that and work through that. And if you need help getting connected with that kind of resource, I hope you'll reach out to us so we can help connect you with that kind of resource. That's a more extreme example, but it's done so much damage no matter what kind of where along the spectrum it has been and how it gets handled.
Yeah.
A very much less extreme example about how we, but more frequent probably, for how we can prioritize institution over relationships would just be like, you know, Seth runs the sound system now. And this is like a prime example. Like I know people who have run, not here, but who have run the sound system, and they They freaking hate the sound system. They're sick of it.
Yeah.
They don't want to experience worship from the tiny box in the back of the room, but nobody else will do it.
Yeah.
And therefore they hate everyone else they go to church with because no one else will do it and learn it. And they've done it for 20 years and I'm so sick of it and I hate the other people in this box. But they keep doing it because they need to do it because the church asks them to do it long after it's good for them to be in that box and running the sound. That's like a very different thing.
Not Seth.
Not Seth. That's not Seth.
But that is an example.
But Seth does the sound in one of the services. So it's an example of the kind of thing where
on
people,
a very micro scale, right?
Yeah,
on a very localized.
Where we just get into it and you just are doing, and it's just not good for you.
Yeah.
And yet you're giving part of yourself away. Yeah. Of course, pastors are notorious for this. But
for me, when we first started talking about it, I initially think of, I guess, the denominational, how this presents itself within a denomination, in that, you know, trying to jockey for maybe power and position over.
Well, that's our next part.
Did I jump?
You're skipping along.
If you read the notes that go out before,
I didn't read any notes. I told Christy
that'll be the next
very
piece.
Unprepared.
So let's finish
And
this
she
one.
was like,
Let's finish this one.
Okay.
Any
Like
other?
ad-lib.
Is that
Okay.
is that something?
I think volunteer burnout is a huge issue.
But there's also an
but-
underlying, a deeper underlying issue of people view the church as a consumeristic mechanism and don't necessarily put themselves in that role. And so we have a shortage of volunteers because, and I don't think it's
it's every every faith community.
Yeah,
and 20% of the people do 80% of
I don't even
everything.
think it's
Yeah.
the congregation's fault. I think the church itself has created this system, thinking that it would lead to growth, but has maybe led to growth, but totally shifted the mindset of the church into a more consumeristic.
Yeah, I know a guy in the last town we were in, and they were going to a church, and they were like, kind of they weren't as into it, and I said, well, you're not going there anymore? He says, well, you know, every time I turn around, he's wanting me to do something. The pastor's asking me to do something, you know. And I didn't want to be like, well, come to my church. I won't ask you to do anything.
Right.
Because that's not the philosophy. Like, we're not just here to be served. We're here to serve and be on a mission. And so we want to figure out how you connect with that mission.
Right.
But here's the trick, right? Like, when is it the mission of sharing God's love with everybody, and when is it the mission of making sure that slide deck goes because we got another service to do?
That's right. The grind. Yeah.
Yes, and this is a thing.
Well, and this is where you're going to get into Gen Z's unpaid labor issues, because Gen Z is big on like.
They also suck at volunteerism and giving.
This is
They're
something.
like, that's why I pay
millennials,
taxes.
let's really pound down on Gen Z right here.
I think
we
millennials-
love volunteering.
Millennials are
But-
terrible at it too. I think you look at giving.
Millennials have one of the
in and
biggest
of themselves.
volunteers.
Yeah, but they volunteer
generations
for.
ever.
Yeah, millennials are so.
I think
Millennials
it's
track
self-serving, and that they do it for themselves,
for their sense of altruism.
Right.
Yeah.
That it's a sort of a virtue signaling / their own sense of self-righteousness.
So on giving,
But I'm
is that a
implying
mirror,
that
Tyler?
intent to them, and obviously that's not something that we could know. But yeah.
yeah. Well, I think so. It's hard to suss out the motivations, right?
Right.
But I think on giving, they don't give at the same levels. And the question is, financially, is that an economic function of a generation that bought houses later?
Sure.
That when they did buy them, bought them post-financial crash 2008.
Have we talked about DoorDash before? Is that a thing here? Okay. Did we unpack the
definitely
DoorDash
did DoorDash
thing?
this weekend as we were doing projects around
so
the house.
let's not
But there's
talk
only
about
two of us.
the financial ramifications. You know, millennials are just burdened by the recession, but somehow can buy $30 deliveries
I don't do DoorDash.
I'm just saying.
Other people
think
in my
it's,
house do, but I am the DoorDash. I didn't.
Yes, but you have several people in your house.
It's a red herring.
What?
I said we have
that's
two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have two people in my house that actually maybe
Yeah.
just one that does DoorDash. Our Gen Z does DoorDash.
Yeah.
Anyhow, okay, so that's another example where people get sick.
I
Let's
would
move on
say,
to your
wait, hold on, I
next.
wasn't done with that
Okay,
one
sorry.
because, I think I've been there. Is what
Yeah.
I was going to say with that one.
I wondered if you didn't have a story to tell there.
Well, I don't know that I'm going to tell a story, but it's just because I don't know, maybe for our own altruistic reasons, we love it was just really the way we plugged into our community. And it got to be, we're like, ask the Burns, they'll do anything. And we loved that about it. But then it got to be like, there are literally 1,000 other people in this church.
Yeah.
Like, why are the Burns
Like, we can't be the only ones.
doing slide, sound, and coffee?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And that's where, like, the thoughts of, like, I mean, because there were paid positions that did stuff like at the church. And I'm like, but they knew that we would do it for free.
Right.
Did you find any coercive piece of that? Like, you really get invested in the mission. You really, man, thanks for serving Jesus in this way.
Yeah, and then, like, we
and
get a
like,
gift card at Christmas.
Yeah.
Like,
Print you out
We
of-
do gift cards at Christmas, but that's
right.
that's
No, and
yeah.
like we love, like that's why I don't want to like tell the story, because we still love this church a lot. It was later that I was like, oh, I think I felt a little used.
Yeah.
Like afterwards, because I actually asked to be on staff there. I was like, I'll go part-time. You can like whatever. And it was just like, no, we don't really have the money for that, but we will continue accepting.
If you could keep
the
doing
same
all
number
of
of
the
hours
things that you
were
do,
doing.
yeah.
Yeah. And later
Yeah.
I was like, oh, huh. And I've never addressed it with them, and like, because I'm not bitter about it, so I don't feel like I need to.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those
Yeah.
realizations later that I was like, oh, I feel like the church definitely got prioritized over us as our relationship.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what we're getting at.
And
Now, if
and like we don't do as much now. As you know, it's like for a minute there, actually, when we moved here, we stepped back and we're like, we are just attending for a bit.
as you
Yeah.
should. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, as a church addict, I can I can understand why it would be healthy, probably, to be like, I'm just gonna go cold turkey on church for a while, and on that. So if we kind of move into, and I want to just, I know we got to be mindful of how long we go and
Sure,
everything
yeah.
else, but we can move into, you mentioned like the greasy pull of the church hierarchy and people trying to climb that hierarchy and as an aspect of church politics. Yeah, I think that's an aspect of church politics. It exists less because, like, at least in our system, we had a huge group of retirements. and like, you know, if any of you want to be ordained, we can probably find a...
I guess my specific, I guess, thought process or example was like, if some sort of legislation was coming up to be passed to, you know, something like, there was always these like backdoor like sort of conversations and who are you voting for, and I don't know, and that just
Yeah.
and I'm not that close to it, so from the outside it seemed like an ick.
So, so in our
To
in
use the
United
modern
Methodist
term, the
polity, bishops are elected.
Yeah.
And so if you want to be a bishop, if you want to, like, I don't know why anybody would want that, but if you want to be that, if you want to have the ability to be appointing pastors and leading a larger segment of the church, you kind of got to cultivate relationships. There have been times where you've got coalitions, you're kind of putting together of votes. And it's hard to imagine a world in which Jesus was able to put together a coalition and get some votes. So we do that around that elevation of leaders. We've done that a lot around issues too, where we're putting together a coalition here, a coalition there. And this is, I think, where it gets real tricky, because sometimes it can be an issue that you feel very passionately and right about. And you're like, no, I think this is a matter of justice, or this is a matter of being faithful to Scripture, or what I think God's doing in the world. And I've seen a lot of people, and I think even myself at times, you kind of get involved in that. And it's really easy to be advocating for the right thing and end up in a situation where you think, did I do that in the wrong way? Or sometimes even, or maybe I did it in the right way, but like I can't contain the consequences that come after that. Of like, you know, one generation of kind of leaders. I'm already at this point where it's like we had something we were advocating for in the life of the church, and how do we change the church in this way? And you kind of use a certain set of some of these kind of like, how do we build a coalition, and how do we talk about it, and how do we, and then the next wave that comes after you, like you're like, okay, now let's be careful with this. And the next wave that comes after is like, yeah, pick up the blowtorch, let's go to it. You know?
And you're like, wait, hold on.
We didn't build these tools for that. We built them for this other. Anyway, so that's another example of church politics. It can happen on a bigger scale, like a denominational level. It can happen in an individual congregation.
Yeah.
Where people get riled up about something that can be a very important matter, or it can be very, very minuscule.
Yeah.
Have you seen that happen?
I personally have not. I don't know.
Oh, no, you haven't?
So. No.
That's
I stay
good.
out of the drama. I don't know. I only see it from a larger scale. I don't really.
So let me remind you of a situation in your life.
Yes, please.
This is your life.
This is your life, Tyler. Let me
I
remind
told you that.
he was
remind me
beforehand.
of things
It's
that
true.
I was there for, and it's like I'm hearing it for the first time because I have a terrible memory.
So if your spouse was here, she would say, what is she? Snookums, whatever. She would say, remember.
She'd say, shut up.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah.
No. Edit that.
Just kidding.
He loves you, Ashley.
Yeah. If she was here, she would say, remember when we were in youth group and they wanted to take out the wall, to put in the worship center, and how fired up we were about they're taking our space. We don't prioritize youth ministry.
That's right.
We don't.
Jesus was mad about it too. He wanted to keep the wall.
Jesus wanted
We
to
made
keep the wall.
T-shirts. They
made
said
T-shirts?
build a wall. No. No, that wasn't
Keep the
it.
wall.
Keep the wall. It was keep the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah. So that's an example of the kind of thing that people get all out of joint.
But that's a
about.
perfect example that it's not a good thing because
I've
it was
seen
completely
that. I'm saying it's a good
self-serving.
thing.
It was completely self-serving.
One of the congregations I served. Yeah, right. One of the congregations I served, they had one of the Salmon Jesus, the resurrected Christ, which my home church had, maybe still has.
Is there a salmon in it?
Salmon, I think, was the guy's name that painted it.
Gotcha.
You guys
I Jesus.
Like a
Salmon
fish
is what
jumping
we were
in the
talking
background
about.
out of a river.
Just if you close your eyes and imagine
Okay.
Jesus,
That's
this
him?
is him. Okay, because this
is he
is
black?
the.
I'm picturing black Jesus.
Of course you were.
Okay.
No, this is the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Viking Jesus.
Viking Jesus. Okay.
The
Viking
Nordic Jesus.
Nordic Jesus.
It was painted like the late 30s, early 40s, and it was put out by Christian publishers, and it became like every home in America that was a Christian
The
home
one that you definitely have
had-
a light so that it's
the light's shining. There's like another version where he's like, I stand at the door and knock.
Oh, yeah.
There's
I've seen the
I
door
know.
knock.
Yeah.
one.
There's like a
My
glamour
great-grandma
shots
had
like this, and
lasers in the back. Oh,
yeah,
that was the
lasers in
80s.
that's a different one.
Molly Jesus. I don't know.
So anyway, this church had the resurrected version of that, where Jesus is standing, hands out like this, and the light behind him. But it's this painted by the same painter whose name was Solomon. And
Farm Park.
yeah. Anyway, so they moved it somewhere from the center focal point of the sanctuary.
No, they didn't.
And this was before I was there, but
Yeah.
I heard about the repercussions still later. Like people acted crazy. They were like, you've taken Christ out of the church.
He's stolen.
And it's like, this is a reprint of a painting a guy did in 1939.
like
it's
Peter
not-
didn't do this by
this
hand.
this Jesus didn't look like that.
Yeah.
You know, like this
What?
is yeah, what? No. This is the Jesus that has been there for the last 35 years or whatever it was.
Since 1939.
And people, but then it was a matter of,
Gotcha.
what, are we taking Christ out of the church now? And this kind of thing. And of course, I don't know that you all experienced this where you might have where you were growing up, Christy.
Good chance.
Here it was a little different because this was very, like in your high school era and just before that, this was all contemporary here. There was no traditional worship at a time here. But where I grew up, we shifted from traditional to more contemporary worship and then back and then forward and then back because there was this push and pull always of what are we doing? What are we doing? And people just lose their minds about
They do.
that.
Yeah.
So it's another example.
We never shifted until I was out of college.
That helped. You never saw that push and
Never
pull
saw
back
it.
and forth. And,
No. They have a band now.
But that's an example of
I know.
church politics.
And the devil.
That,
No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, and the devil too.
That's right. And your
And
rock and
the-
roll music and Pokemon cards. No, it's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any
No,
music
it
with
is,
drums is music of the devil.
Yes. Syncopated.
Evidently.
My
yes.
great grandmother
Yes.
actually, would have agreed with that.
Yeah. Well,
She did listen to Josh Turner on her very last days for Long Black Train. That was acceptable.
That was
there were
the
drums
one.
there somewhere or no? I don't think there
Long
are.
Black Train? I don't know
think
that
so.
it does.
Voice is a beautiful drum.
His voice is a beautiful drum.
He's
It's
a
true.
beautiful man, actually.
That
Josh
hair,
Turner.
dude.
At least he was when he released the album.
No,
I don't know what he
still
looks
is.
like now.
He's aged
Yeah.
well.
Okay,
Nice.
great. Good for him.
Good
anyway,
for him. But yes, I've seen the things that you're talking about where
that turns
like,
people off.
it
doesn't
sure
it?
does.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I think it's another reason that church bites. One last one. We come to church for the social interaction. And yet it's hard even around the social interaction for the social interactions not to devolve into junior high cafeteria mode, which is like this person's more popular, this person's more liked, this person's more in the center of the life of the church. And I find this to be a constant battle, even with my family, to be like, no, not just your friends, draw the circle wider, like include.
It's a horseshoe.
Yeah, right. Make it a horseshoe.
Always
I like
have
that.
a
It's
gap.
open. There's always, and it's hard to do because on the one hand, like once we have relationships we like and are comfortable with, that's a wonderful feeling. That's not available everywhere.
Yeah. Right.
And yet the other hand is how do we do that in a way that continues to make it so other people can connect with that and not feel left out by the kind of different layers. So, our families person I know talks about this at youth group a lot. Like, it's great that you guys are a close group of friends. Bring it out just a little bit. There's times for that, and there's times to like bring it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the hard thing about that is like you can't be close with everyone, and so like when you get close to those people, you tend to gravitate to the ones there. And I think it's important to make that distinction, especially for younger folks who might not understand what you're trying to say. Like, I'm not saying you have to be best friends with everybody,
right? Yeah,
but
even for people our age, for people that are in their 80s, this is still a dynamic that plays out. Where it's like, well, this person's more popular. They're got more recognition. They, more visible in the life of the church than this person who feels left out and like they're not included. And, isn't that another example of church politics?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guess you could qualify it that way. It's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would necessarily, but I could see what you're saying.
I think it goes back to intent. Like, if people are doing it, like, well, I just really like these people, right? But if they're also like trying to create relationships,
I want to get more recognition. So I'm
trying to move my way up, or I'm trying to connect with more people. To me, that intent, which we can't know.
You can get a feeling sometimes.
You can get
it's
a
like
feeling.
this person's trying to carve out a lane here.
Wait a second, yeah.
But it's still kind of stinky too sometimes when it's like, well, these folks get along really well, but they get along so well that there isn't room
you
for
can't
other
get it. Yeah. And I think this is actually something that I'd wanted to circle back to for a while because I'd been mulling. That's the problem when we're having these things. Like I start mulling on what we're talking about later. I'm like, oh man, wish I would have said or clarified or
I immediately forget it, and that's what's so great about it.
So nice.
Isn't that nice?
I mean, it helps when it helps to forget when you don't even read the material before we talk about it.
So I'm not prepared, and then we walk out, and I immediately forget everything we talked about.
Dory.
Oh, yeah. What?
52
Did we talk about that? Tell me about it. What did I say? Was it good?
We did.
Yeah. Okay.
It was one of those things that I partially agree with because it was talking about Taekwondo.
Oh, yeah.
And like how you have like these special rituals and you have whatever and people like that. And while I agree and I think there is a degree that we can borrow from, the church is not meant to be like a closed like society of people that you've got your outs and your ins and you're you're not in until XYZ kind of thing. And I feel like that can really turn people off.
Yeah.
But I also understand
it's also like that close to a cult.
Yeah.
Right? It feels a little culty. Like you're like, secret hand signs and
right.
Like
we're using this special language and I don't think there's anything wrong with special language as long as we explain ourselves with it.
So when it comes to
literally that's a fire truck
when it comes to the thing I guess I'm thinking about more that we talk about it in youth group. I talk about it with my family, with my kids. But how do we end up practicing in this very benign way where it's like we got a good thing and you've got friendships and you feel like you belong? What are the things we can do that end up not making that an exclusive thing? Christy?
Can I give you a story? So we just moved to Fort Wayne. We were having a heck of a time. It was just a rough time, period. And we were trying this church and they're great people. Love them. And we found out later they had just started. So this was like but we didn't know that.
Fresh meat.
And like lovely folks, they were having they were doing this thing during that time that was like a monthly after church family meal. That's amazing. And everyone, like a lot of people came up and introduced themselves. It was good, whatever. And then it came time we got our food And not even did no one invite us to sit down. There was no place to sit, and no one made room. And we stood in a corner.
Yikes. We don't want that
closed.
They're still around, but I was just like, wow, that feels very unwelcome. And so it was that. And no one was purposefully, not at all. I have zero thoughts. But they had their kids, they whatever.
They were just
and
in their own
they were in their
little
own
environment and not
we had
aware.
a father and daughter a while ago that attended at brunch church at the Y, and there's a kids table, and they both ended up sitting at the kids table, and no other kids were there. And I felt terrible about that, and I mentioned it to something later, and they were like, well, the daughter loved being able to sit at the little table. It was okay. But I felt like, no, somebody ought to go sit at the kids' table with them. To that point. How do we look around and develop the skill to say that person is not, we're not including that person. And it's one thing if they're like, I need a minute to be over here, and it's another thing to just not see it. Yeah. So you're saying, Christy, see people.
See people.
See people. I love that. Yeah. It's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah.
See people.
Just see people. Oh.
Is there anything else we can do on that front? Or, another thing you said, Christy, is explain terms sometimes. Like, just take them a second to say, wait, I just want to realize I may have done this. Anything else on that front?
I think if there's anything, and I think you all do a great job, like with communion, something that someone may have never experienced. Like, this is why everyone's getting up and going to, they might have heard of it or whatever, but communion is done differently at almost every single church. So just even little things like that kind of, so you have the ritual, but like you're still explaining what's going on. It's not just like, oh, you don't know? Well.
Yeah.
Good luck. Better next time.
Good luck for you.
So I think it's incredible how the piece that, at least in terms of our conversations in this podcast, where we start naming like what we value is the faith community.
Yeah.
We value that. We value Jesus. We value the faith community. And yet we recognize there are ways in which it's problematic or that it bites, right?
Right.
And yet like this conversation is really like people are in the same room.
Yeah, it's like across the board.
And there are problems with that of every kind. Like that we kind of broke through. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate that we discovered so many different worlds in the conversation.
So many
tonight.
worlds.
Which is also kind of just emblematic of like what it is to be in faith community in our time, which is you're going to end up coming into contact with so many different worlds, even in a small group of people. Some who have never heard of Pokemon, is that what it's called?
Oh, you're doing that on purpose.
That was purposeful.
And some who have never heard of fiduciary trust.
That's right.
I like that you always do your fingers like this.
Yes, I tried to do the Mr. Burns fingers.
Oh, the power
excellent.
people.
Yes. When I say those terms.
That's what it's called.
Yeah. Yeah. The powers.
That's what it's called.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Well, thanks. Good conversation. Good talk, long talk.
On the ride. See y'all next time.
Yeah.
You need to close.
Good.
Well, thanks for joining us. Again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We want to continue the conversation with all of you. You can do it in those fashions or through our email at churchbites@stjoemin.com. That's churchbites@stjoemin.com. And we're going to be hosting live events here in Fort Wayne, so look into the description for the details there so we can continue the conversation about all the things we love about the church and faith, as well as some of the ways in which it bites. Thanks for being here.